Hi, everyone. This is Liz Brush. I am just going to wait just 2 minutes just because it's a technology type presentation. So I want to allow people to have a couple extra minutes to get on if they have to download the GoToWebinar. So we will start in 2 minutes on the presentation about the three-person positioning. So I appreciate your patience. All right, we're going to get started. We have a good number of attendees, and I appreciate all of you taking the time out of your evening to get on this presentation. I think we are all heading into our postseason within the next probably 2, 3, 4 weeks. So many of us spend our whole season doing two-person positioning at the high school level, and then we get into postseason and we're kind of blasted back into the three-person system. So we wanted to do this presentation to go through the three-person positioning for a review for many of you. Maybe it's new for some of you, to get ready to prepare for the postseason at the collegiate, and probably some of you the collegiate, and most of you the high school level. So this evening we have two presenters who have spent a lot of time training. They're both trainers and clinicians for US Lacrosse as well as the CWLOA. They have done a lot of teaching all over the country. Colleen Spiegelhoff is from the Rochester area, and she has done a lot of training in her area as well as other areas of the country. Maggie Walsh is from Locke, New York, which is in the beautiful Finger Lakes. And she has been working with US Lacrosse Training Committee for more time than I have, and has done a tremendous amount of work with the training materials, the rating materials, and has just been really influential in a lot of what we have implemented with the trainer courses and observer courses. So on that note, Colleen and Maggie will take you through the PowerPoint. At the end, I will come back on. This is being recorded as well, and I will work if you have questions, you'll see on the right-hand side, there's an area for questions, and I will try to answer them as quickly as I can. And bring some up at the end if we have some that have been unanswered. So on that note, Colleen and Maggie, take it away.
Okay, my name is Maggie Walsh, and my co-producer is Colleen Spiegelhoff. We welcome you to our webinar on three-person positioning. With this presentation, Colleen and I are hopefully covering the topics you need to review with a three-person crew. The three-person system has special challenges that are not seen in the two-person system. Colleen.
Sorry, go ahead.
Click. Okay. The purpose of using the three-person officiating crew is to add another dimension of field coverage to the game and therefore make the game safer. Okay. All right, I just lost the screen. Wait a minute. I got it back. In the two-person system, we have a lead official and a trail official who basically split the field in half lengthwise and overlap in the middle third of the field. When play is in the CSA, the lead is responsible for on-ball calls for most of the area, and the trail generally covers off-ball. In the three-person system, coverage is further defined. A or B serve as lead in their end of the field when the ball is in the CSA, and a deep trail in the opposite end. In this situation on the slide, A is lead, C serves as a second lead and picks up the ball when it's on her side of the CSA. C will be off ball or a second trail when the ball is on lead side of the arc. B is the deep trail here, and she is responsible for all off-ball fouls. We're going to go through the three positions and do them individually so you can get a feel for how they move on the field. The three positions will rotate through in a three-person game are as follows. Let's take a look at the A position. Here is her basic assignments. Leading to her right, these will be quite familiar to you because these are your lead responsibilities and positioning in the two-person system. Okay, let's get rid of B and C for now. Position A will lead to her right as normal in the two-person system. And then when the ball goes to the other end, she will serve as the deep trail when the ball goes to the B end of the field. This should be familiar as this is the same assignments as in the two-person system. The next position is B. We'll have the same assignments as A, but here's where it gets tricky. You have to learn to do your lead to the left. She will lead to the left, trail to the right. Okay, let's work with B. B position will lead to the left and will serve when the ball goes to the other end of the field. She will serve as a deep trail. Now C has different assignments. She's a second lead and a second trail. She escorts the ball in transition and does all the draws. Let's eliminate A and B. C will conduct all draws and will act as the second lead and a second trail in both CSAs at both ends of the field. So she will be a lead when the ball comes to her side, and she will be a trail when the ball goes to the far side. She will escort the ball down the field while A and B are adjusting to the direction of the play. Because we are working as a unit of 3 and not 2, we will see more fouls simply because we have more eyes on the ball. Seeing the big picture will also help us determine not just the play at the ball, but the next possible play and be prepared for it. We also have opportunity to better manage the game. Big picture is your focus as a single official. The bigger picture should give you a wider view of the action around the ball. Notice the difference between the width of vision and the game coverage on each picture. On the left, the official is focused on the ball and 2 players. On the right, the official can see a wider frame and has better understanding of what the player with the ball is doing, but also what a wide range of players around her are doing. And here, with the addition of an additional set of eyes, we as a crew can add even more visual space and help with the play around the ball. Our bigger picture here demonstrates that while one official is on ball, the other will be able to see those off-ball fouls that might be overlooked or missed in the 2-person game.
Hi, this is Colleen Spiegelhoff. I'm going to take over for a little while now and talk to you about boundary coverage. C will have the entire sideline on the far side of the field and will assist each lead with the coffin corner on C's side. The lead, A or B, will have the end boundary on her lead end of the field, as well as share the side boundary on her side of the field. The deep trail, either A or B, will be responsible to move to the boundary to assist the lead with calls deep in the lead's end and headed to the side boundary. If the deep trail moves to cover this call, the lead can stay in closer proximity to the goal and be in a position to make a call should a quick pass put the ball in the CSA. C always administers. A and B are watching both the players on the circle for early entry or off-ball fouls, and the players on the restraining line who cannot cross until officials signal possession. As you know from the 2-person system, it's a lot to manage, but the additional set of eyes on the field makes it much easier. There are times when A and B may need to discuss who's watching which players on the circle. The players may set up closer to B, for example, but A may have a better angle to see between the players and make a call for an off-ball foul. C will restart all illegal draws. If one team draws illegally, C will set up the free position and will restart the play with the whistle. Oops, I'm sorry. What if both players draw illegally? What if a push occurs at the restraining line? Where is the restart? Any fouls during the draw are set up at the spot of the ball. As you know, if the red team draws illegally, but the blue team commits a push foul on the circle at the same time, the foul's offset. The alternate possession takes place at the spot of the ball. The direction the ball is headed will determine who restarts play. Discuss restarting play in the midfield. C will restart play in her third of the midfield lengthwise. C will set up the free position and be even with the ball to restart play and then escort the ball down the field. In this situation, C will set up the foul and give A the opportunity to get ahead of play and have the play transition towards her into her CSA. C will then restart play. B should begin to get a count for players over the restraining line to be sure no one from the attack team goes off sides or that the defenders pressuring the ball go off sides. B will follow behind play. When fouls occur on the AB side in transition, the new trail should come up and release the lead. This procedure is used on fouls in the midfield as well as sideline boundary calls. In the situation here, A has made the call. When B moves in to restart play, headed towards A's end of the field, A gives the pertinent information to B, the player foul, the number of the player to go behind, etc., and then moves towards the CSA to get in a position to receive the play. The C official in this scenario should have a player count for offsides. If A and B are focused on the restraining line responsibilities. When we're restarting play in the middle of the field, it depends. The ball is in the center for the restart. Who does the restart? As you've heard us all say countless times, it depends. Ask yourself these questions. Where is the ball going? Is it coming towards you or moving away from you? How are the other players positioned? Move to be in position to see the ball and see between the players prior to the restart. How have the teams been playing? If it is a very physical game, you may need to stay closer to catch play on body fouls, checks in the sphere, etc. Again, depending upon which way the ball is heading, the trail and C need to be aware of the restraining line count and be prepared to call offsides if necessary. Once we decide which way play is going, C may look to B and be able to release the restart to B and get a bit of head of play for her to escort the ball down the field. Of course, this may also apply when the ball is going in the other direction. In that case, A and C will make the decision. The release of the restart does not need to be a lengthy discussion. The officials will make eye contact and let each other know, either by a subtle point towards your partner, saying you have it, or a subtle pat on your own chest, saying I have it, who will restart. Communication should be quick so play can restart. Maggie? Maggie, you there?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm back. Now we are down with play inside the CSA. Note the arcs of movement on the slide. This is the general movement of the officials in each position. They will, of course, move in relation to the location of the ball. Note in this position, C will cover free space to goal. A is off ball, while the B lead is on a high tangent. So they're all in relative position to the ball. Now, A will cover free space to goal. C is off ball, while B is in a low tangent. Each official's responsibilities may change when the ball moves within the CSA. For example, the free space to goal call will move from C's responsibility to A's responsibility as the ball moves across the CSA. The general positioning of the officiating team inside this third of the field at each end, B will adjust from a high to low tangent, while A and C will move to cover free space to goal and off-ball fouls while making sure there are eyes down the middle of the arc. In the next slides, note where the ball is and how the triangle changes shape and the area it encloses. The size of the triangle is dependent on the way the teams are playing. If they are playing tight to the CSA, the triangle is smaller. Follow the ball and then look at the triangle. If the teams play a very wide attack, the triangle will be larger. Note that A is covering the middle of the arc, while C is on ball. B has moved to a higher tangent. The triangle will shift based on where the ball is on the field. Make sure the middle of the arc is covered as demonstrated by the movement of C and A as the ball moves across the arc. A here is responsible for free space to goal.
Oops, sorry.
You will note that the lead is adjusting to the ball. The deep trail A and C are adjusting relative to the ball and each other. As we go through the slides again, let's look at the movement of the triangle and the ball. Is the middle of the arc covered? in each situation? Is the lead moving correctly in relation to the ball? We must be clear that there is not one spot that you have to always be. It depends. The warning symbol on the screen will be seen on other slides. This means it depends, and positioning and responsibilities demonstrated on this presentation may flex according to live play. Here we are giving you the general locations and duties. X does not mark the spot.
Now let's discuss areas of coverage in the CSA. Lead is in pink, on ball here. C is off ball, but is ball aware and ready to pick up the ball should it transition to C's side. And deep trail is off ball. We should emphasize that there are no lines on the field that says this is where you stop looking. Areas of coverage can and should overlap in the three-person system. It depends on where the ball is in the CSA. Each official has specific responsibilities with each changing position of the ball when it is in the CSA. Lead, and when the ball is on lead side, would have on-ball fouls, goal circle fouls, and fouls after the shot. C will have mostly off-ball fouls. And deep trail in this situation would have a shooting space call and off-ball calls as well. As we go through the next slide, pay particular attention to the underlined responsibilities and that warning sign again. Oops, it depends. Where is the ball? Where are the players? It's a lot to consider when officiating in the CSA. When the ball moves to C side, responsibilities and priorities shift. Who is on ball? On ball. Note that it's at the top of C's list and the bottom of lead's list. Also note that these responsibilities may vary a bit depending on the play. If the offense is stacking players on C's side, for instance, C may be in the best position to see an off-ball pick and make that call. If the ball is in the middle of the arc, officials will shift to maintain the triangle and cover the CSA. Depending on the ball's movement towards C side or towards lead side, fouls in the middle and above the CSA can be covered by C or deep trail. Another warning here, these responsibilities are not written in stone. We are all here to help each other. If one of us is drawn into an unusual situation, our partners are there to cover and help us get it right. Oops, Maggie, I'm sorry, that's you.
Another thing that's a little different in the three-person game are restarts. We have to coordinate between the three officials who will restart play in the attacking end of the field. We covered restarts in transition and the middle of the field and releasing and letting people get ahead, but now we're restarting in the attacking end of the field. Restarts for the end line boundary and fouls below the goal line extended are generally the responsibility of the lead. It makes sense because that's where she is. In settled play, inside the restraining line, the deep trail will cover the side boundary, both making the call and possibly restarting play. Eye contact with the lead is important to determine if the lead is ready and possibly wants to do the restart. Eye contact is always necessary with all officials to determine readiness. C will restart play in her general third of the field inside the restraining line, including her sideline. Again, always make eye contact with the lead before you restart or to see if the lead wants to take the restart. Inside the CSA, the lead will restart play. Always check eye contact with your partners before you restart anywhere on the field.
The sorry.
I got it.
Go ahead.
I got it. The coffin corner is a tricky space on the field where officials need to work together to make the call and to restart play. In the pregame, officials can discuss which official has the best look between the players to make a call if necessary. Restarting in the coffin corner depends on which way the ball is going. If the ball is staying in the attack with the attacking player, the B lead may want to start play. If the ball is awarded to the defender and therefore is now headed upfield, the B may still want to start play so C can move upfield to exchange the restraining line or take the restraining line from A. Always look to each other before you assume it is or isn't your responsibility.
As you've seen, there are numerous changes when you go from a 2-person system to a 3-person. Coverage and general role in the game are all constantly changing. You need to be clear as to your responsibilities as A, B, or C, and know how those responsibilities shift as play progresses. Based on what you now know about the 3-person system, how is the pregame different than the 2-person system? Some topics remain the same, like communication and coach interaction, while others are specific to the 3-person system. A good 3-person pregame covers a lot. You need to discuss shared areas of coverage, communication between officials, and communication with the coaches. Discussion on shared areas of coverage includes the draw. Who's counting the proper number of players for each team? Who's watching players on the circle and monitoring early entry? In the CSA, how are we helping with free positions? Handling false starts. Are we flagging them or are they an immediate whistle? And end line coverage in the coffin corner. How much help do you want from your C? Between C and trail, be clear on how to manage play near the who will pick up the ball, who will watch the line for offsides. And middle of the arc coverage. How are we managing shooting space right down the middle? And finally, off-ball fouls. In transition, who is watching off-ball? How will deep trail help to set up the free position setups and off-ball responsibilities in the CSA? Communication between the 3-person system. In managing midfield play, what do we do with double whistles? How do we communicate who restarts in shared areas? Discuss the need for eye contact. As Maggie said, it's very important and it needs to be done. Discuss restarts, boundary calls, and fouls after the shot, and make sure that we're checking in with each other before we restart play. In terms of boundary coverage, is the deep trail getting wide to handle the sideline calls so lead can stay closer to the CSA? With the restraining line, discuss how to hand off the line. Who does what for setting up offsides fouls? And off-ball responsibilities. Making sure the important information is conveyed and handling off-ball play in the CSA. It's also very important to have a discussion about how we are communicating with the coaches. A stick check is requested. Who's performing it? If there are questions during play, how do we respond and when do we respond? And how do we share that conversation with our partners? If we have a problem with the coach, we need to share any warnings that are given and discuss efficient card administration. And finally, game clock awareness. Making sure calls are consistent and we are using cards effectively and following proper procedures for injuries, timeouts, and overtime. Now you've learned the basics of the three-person system. And once you work the three-person system, you really never want to go back. As Patty Daly says, uh-oh, where did it go? There we go. Work together to get it right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen and Maggie. Just a couple things that came through. Can you just speak a little more candidly about what when you say release, whether it's release the restraining line, release the restart in the midfield, release, can you just speak what that more specifically means? What does it mean to release somebody?
Maggie,
Colleen, can you take it back to the slide that has the release in the midfield?
I can try.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go through these as they came along. So once you get back to the beginning one, this one, then we can move through the other couple ones.
Okay. I think it's in there with those slides. No?
Yeah, anywhere in there will probably.
How about
Right.
here?
Restarting play in there, third. Okay. I think might be a couple slides farther. What's happening is if the foul is in A's realm here on this slide, A is called the foul, and what B is going to do is going to come up, get the information from A, and release A to progress down the field and get in a position where she can greet play. So that's the release in the midfield. So now, yeah, go ahead.
When you say information,
Correct.
you're saying what the foul was, like, so if it's an empty stick check versus a dangerous check through the sphere.
Right. So you want to let B know if it's going to be a major foul or a minor foul by just indicating, maybe just with a really wonderful large signal of the foul, and then make sure B has the correct player to put 4 behind if it's major. So A would probably say, I have a cross check on 24 blue, 24 goes behind. And then B will give a nod or an indication that they're going to release A. A will move down the field to greet play. C will move up to cover the offsides because in this particular case, B is busy with the restart. So C is going to keep a little eye on the offsides. So that's a release in the midfield.
And when B comes up to release that play, do you have any suggestions on communication with those players, like, whistle from behind and surprise them, or,
Oh, right. Yeah, let's not surprise them. On my whistle, so the players will know who's going to whistle this restart, and obviously this B person will have some indication to the players that the whistle is going to come from them and not the A who just ran away.
Okay. Yeah, so like get in their visual line, even though B is going to trail technically. I think if you come up and you let them know you're there and that you're going to restart, that's perfect.
Right.
The next question came in, has to do with a tangent. The
high and low tangent?
Exactly. So if you could just be a little more like high and low and why, what's that relative to?
Okay.
And why have high and low? Why don't we just stay on the goal line extended?
Right. So it looks like those slides through there, Colleen, are good.
Got it.
Okay, so if you look at the position of B, could you make that big? There you go. If you look at the position of B, she's if you draw a line to the ball and then another line across the front of the goal circle, B is in a position where if the ball carrier went directly to goal, B would be able to see feet, a dangerous follow through, a foot that would hit the goal line, or not the goal line, the goal circle. So in this particular slide, B is on actually a flat tangent. So if we click another slide, Colleen, okay, B is on a higher tangent because the ball is now on the far side. So what we try to do is get as close to a flat line across the edge. Colleen, can you use your arrow across the edge of the where the ball carrier would come in and meet the goal circle? B is going to try to be 90 degrees off of that angle. Now, our little diagrams might be a little off, but everything is not exact because everything is fluid. So let's move to another slide with a wider view. Okay, B is still okay. No, that one's good. Even though the ball is far out, B is starting to drop to a low tangent, because if you follow the path of the ball to the goalkeeper, B is going to place herself at a 90-degree angle to that contact with the goal circle. So she's in a position to see whether the attacking forward steps over the goal circle, or has a dangerous follow through into someone at that particular point. And move it one more time. Let's see where she goes this time. Okay, she went high again. So there's a high tangent. Move it again, Colleen. Low tangent, high tangent. Notice where the ball is. The ball's on the far side, so we now have a high tangent. When the ball comes to the near side, we have a low tangent. Still on the far side. Now it's coming toward her, so now B is going to drop even farther down. I don't know which slide that is, but there's one slide there where she drops below, I believe, or near below. I guess we don't have, yeah, that's as slow as she gets in this particular example. If we could slide the ball, we can't right now, but if Colleen, with your pointer, if you could indicate if the ball came even lower to the left of A, B would have to drop even deeper to maintain her tangent. So that is your high and low tangent. So it's the same as when you are doing two-person. It's going to be a little more difficult on your B lead side because you're not used to leading to your left. The thing I could suggest to you to practice this before you have to do three-man is to get with another person who is familiar with three-person positioning, and in a two-person game, lead to your left for the game. You're still calling the same game, you're still in the same positions, you're just leading left and trailing right. You could practice that, and then when you get in the three-person situation, you will have a little more practice at it. Now, don't do it on a championship game and find yourself in the wrong place, but you could try it just to practice it.
Great. Colleen, can you put the slide up where the ball is kind of in front of B, closer into the CSA? Perfect. Yes, thank you. So we have a question about how do you handle a ball, probably in this scenario, where is there ever a time, the ball clearly here is closer to B. Is there going to be a time, or what type of scenario would C make a call on ball there? Like, or is that completely no? Like, is there a scenario that you would think? It said, if basically the question was, how do you handle a situation where the ball is closest to B in this quadrant, so to speak, and B does not make a call, but C may see something, excuse me, on the other side that they feel that B has not called. How do you handle that kind of scenario?
Maggie, you want me to cover this?
Yeah.
Well, in this picture, and we didn't do this deliberately, but interestingly enough, B is being screened by the two players. Well, B has two players right in front of her, and C has a direct line to the ball with no players in front of them. So in this instance, there could be some sort of contact from the side that B isn't seeing. You know, if our X and O that are right outside that second inside hash are the ones carrying the ball, and C has an angle, C is absolutely in the position to make that call and should make that call, because it's that extra set of eyes that's going to pick up fouls maybe that are coming from a side or from behind that the lead might not see. In that situation, C makes the call, C comes in and conveys that information to B. This is what I saw, this is why I saw it, this is what happened. And then B, as the lead, would step back in and set up the free position.
Great, thanks. And the next question, I don't know that there's a picture here, but if we can imagine the ball over below the goal line extended on the C side, I believe. It says, does the lead always cover the ball for everything below the goal line extended, with C only helping way out in the corner, or is C going to take their half of the field on the CSA? So if the ball, obviously this picture is not showing it, but the ball's below the goal line extended, how does lead and C share that space?
Go ahead, Maggie.
Oh, okay. All right. I was waiting for you.
Sorry.
Okay. In this, if the ball is over here where Colleen's arrow is, and C sees a foul over there, and yes, this is C's coverage area for fouls. We agreed upon that. And B has dropped below the goal line extended. So we sort of have a tie on who's closest to making this call. I believe B tries to keep her concentration on ball as well as off. C is very cognizant of fouls happening in here. Now, who can see the spaces between the players? If the players are stacked with one with their back to the end line and one facing in on that player, B might have a better view of the spaces between the player. If they are parallel, the two players are parallel to the end line and the goal line extended, and one is facing out to the sideline and one is facing into the goal circle, C would be able to see the spaces between the players and be able to make the call. So if B's looking at backs and C's looking at spaces, then C should probably be making the call, and vice versa. If C is looking at backs and B is looking at spaces, I would give this call to the B who has dropped below the goal line extended. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Perfect. Copy. Okay. And then the next one goes to, actually there are two that came out of the pregame discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're probably more specific to pregame. Let's see. Yeah. So you mentioned false starts, who and what, and how do you decide? So when you say that, can you just explain a little bit more specifically, like, what do you mean false starts? Who's going to call, and why would we not call a false start? So how would you handle that?
Excellent question. I love this question, and it's always a big part of my pregame. Because there's no hard and fast rule on when we flag a false start or when we call a false start on a free position.
On the 8 meter.
On an 8, yes, thank you. On an 8 meter free position, you need to be very clear that as a team, you're going to do it the same way. You don't want at one end of the field to have the lead official or let's say C official, if there's a false start of free position on lead side, and C official decides to flag a false start for a defender moving from the center hash. If that happens at one end of the field, it better happen at the other end of the field, or you'll obviously be hearing from the coaches about the inconsistencies there. So you want to make sure you're on the same page. If we all agree that we're going to only flag false starts, then we're all on free positions in the 8 meters. But if we all agree we're going to flag them, then we're all going to do it the same way. It's the same conversation you have about what we're going to tolerate in terms of contact to the body. Are we going to call it very tightly, and any horizontal, any stick, I'm sorry, not horizontal contact. This is USL rules. Any stick contact to the body, how are we calling that? Are we allowing a certain amount of play on? Are we immediately calling any extension of a shaft into a player's body? Let's make sure we're consistent. If you have that conversation at the beginning of the game, and then you are consistent throughout the game in the way you call it, you're much less likely to hear from the coaches about it.
Okay, great. I'm going to go to the next one, which would be on this page. Coach communication. So obviously in postseason, oftentimes you'll have a lead official or a head official most of the time. Sometimes you'll just kind of be 3 people on a game. So when you mentioned talking to the coaches, how to handle unruly coaches, for example, coach, there's halftime and the coach from the blue team comes out to start to ask you a question. How would you handle that regarding, do we want anyone from the other team there? Who's going to talk? How many people are going to answer the questions? And when would it be appropriate for more than one person to answer a question in that regards?
Maggie, you want to go?
Sure. First, having to do with coach communication, let's talk about the coach on the sideline. Some of the directions this year is to improve our coaching communication between coaches and officials. The coaches would really like to know what a call was. If you cannot give that information based on your partner's signals, your best answer to the coach is, I will find out. The other thing is, if you do not have time to answer a coach's question, you should always say, I will get back to you. And when we have time to cover this, or I understand, coach, I'll look into it, or we're supposed to be as cordial as possible. We were asked not to use a palm up and extended at the coach if they are asking questions. We are to give them a thumbs up, which means I understand, I will get back to you. As far as coaches asking a question at halftime, they have the right to do that. I would strongly suggest that you bring another coach over. That doesn't mean they have to attend. The other coach may defer and say, no, that's okay, you go have the discussion. It would be in your best interest, after you've had that discussion and the question by the blue coach and the white coach chose not to attend, that you could do a little summary for the white coach before that timeout expires and make sure they understand what possible things were discussed in that little discussion of yours on the field. The more transparent you can be about the discussions you have with coaches, the better the coaches feel about it. If only for you to run along the sideline and say, he asked me about the offsides. That's enough. You don't need to say anything more. Did that cover what you wanted, Liz?
Yeah, I think the key there is just like when you do a pregame with the coaches, a pregame meeting with coaches and captains, you have one voice.
Right.
They ask a question. Yep. And then in like a halftime situation where a coach may come out and they have a question, they have a general question in that scenario, it's probably most appropriate for the head official or lead official, most experienced official to answer that question. There also may be times when the coach comes out and directs a question to a particular official who may not be the head official. So they may look over, if Colleen's the head official and I made a charge call that the coach is really concerned about, she may direct that question right at me. And if we talk about that pregame, in our pregame discussion, if the coach directs a question right at you, then, I think that person might have the most information and can answer that. So again, that's another pregame discussion, talk about one voice or a direct question about a call. So yes, Maggie, that did. Thank you. I'm trying to understand this question, but I think basically this question, B is on ball, C is covering quadrant A, the other quadrant, so off ball on the other side, and the trail is now looking for shooting space. What happens if there's a foul possibly up at the restraining line? How do we, I think this is probably more of a trail question. So we've got play inside the CSA. Yeah, any of those would work. Great. We've got play inside the CSA. Lead potentially is on ball. C is looking at the other, and trail, is looking for shooting space and things like that. What if stuff is happening at the restraining line or out of their visual? How do you get a feel for what to do with that? If that makes any sense.
I think I'm understanding.
Oh, I see where it is. Sorry, we got more of the question.
Go ahead.
So basically above, I can even answer this, above where anybody is looking. So I think what you're asking, Diana, is that, so these people are in this set and they're looking at the things they're looking at. And what if something's going on behind the restraining line? And how do we handle that? And how do we even know what's going on? I guess seems to be the question. Exactly, she says. Okay, perfect. And I'm happy to answer this unless you guys are.
No, go for it.
Go ahead, Liz.
Okay, so I think in this situation, you're going to, first of all, you can't see everything, especially if you're trying to see the stuff you're focused on here. And so if you are, if something like that's happening, players or coaches probably need to bring it to their attention. And if they do that respectfully, then the officials can adjust their positioning. So in this scenario, say we have some kind of a very contentious game. We have players behind the restraining line who are pushing and shoving. And a player comes and brings it to the attention to the officials. So you can adjust your positioning. So possibly trail could come wider and open their stance so that they could see behind the restraining line. They could also probably come a little deeper in that scenario and be a presence near the two players who are not happy with each other. But a lot of times we're focused down in this space. And so unless it's brought to our attention, obviously if the ball goes to the C side, trail can check back behind the restraining line and then come back in. So you're going to check back but watch forward, check back but watch forward. So usually you can tell the temperature of the game is changing. And so as you move up and down the field, you might identify two players who are just not happy with each other. So in that scenario, you might want to adjust slightly your positioning and take a look back and then watch forward, if that helps. Yeah, got it. That's all. Exactly. Oh, wait, hang on. How far does trail need to move into the CSA?
Mm-hmm. The trail usually will come in 5 yards inside the restraining line. If play comes out toward them, they might back up. They might move wider, as Liz said, toward the boundary, but it's usually 5, 6, 7 yards inside the restraining line. I think that gives them their best view of the off-ball fouls. Of course, they're always moving to make sure they have a clear vision of off-ball fouls.
Great.
Agreed?
Yeah, and just to add to that, Liz, that also is depending on how the teams are playing. If you have an offense that's really spread wide, almost trying to stall or to really pull their offense wide to allow a cutter to come through, and they're 15, 18 yards away from the goal circle, the deep trail isn't going to be in their way. The deep trail is going to have to back up and allow that play to happen in front of him or her. So it depends on how the teams are playing as well. If they play really tight, maybe you can get in a little closer. As long as you're keeping all the players in front of you and you have a view of what's going on the field, you can allow play to dictate where you stand.
Great. Good. And I think we're up to date with all the questions. So on that note, I think that, very clearly from some of these last questions is that you're going to adjust your positioning there. Like Maggie and Colleen said, there is no X on the field where you need to go stand. So as the ball moves, as different styles of play occur, you're going to keep adjusting your play. And you're going to read where the ball is, where the players are, and what is the temperature of the game. Are things so you need to make a presence somewhere? Is there a face guard going on that you kind of just need to be closer to? So, again, it all depends, which is a perfect answer. So, this particular the PowerPoint will be posted on uslacrosse.org under Women's Officials More Resources. I'll put it up there tomorrow. And then we'll have the recorded version on the e-learning site. If you go to the Officials Professional Development, and the recorded version with the answers to these questions will be on there. So I want to thank Maggie and Colleen for giving us tons of great information. And thank you for everybody who jumped on and took part in this professional development webinar. So thanks, and have a great night, and have an awesome postseason, everybody. There they go. On that note, thanks. Good. Yeah, so you guys, great job. Thank you so much.
Did we go too fast?
No, it was great. It was good because the questions that came up were,
I'm glad we could pull the slides back up, Colleen. That was good.
Yeah, that was it.
Sorry, a couple times I got ahead of myself and I was like, what just happened?
That's okay. Yeah, we tried to put as much animation in as we could, just so.
Yeah, no, it was great. Yep. Thank you so much. That was perfect.
Okay, great.
All right. Thanks, you guys. I'm going to end this so the remaining 35 people can be done listening to us.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Talk to you guys. Bye.
Bye.